This podcast was brought to you by the good people at Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial right now at audibletrial.com/nothingbutstatic.
Can I start the podcast with a question, Dan? Go straight into it.
Sure.
Are we too tired for this?
Yes. But enjoy the podcast anyway. Hit the music. Hello and welcome to Stephen University, the only podcast that has the balls to ask the hard questions such as, we are far, or are we far too tired for this? The answer being absolutely yes. We just recorded a marathon 3-hour podcast for the Statics, which is our yearly TV award show that we do on our main podcast, Nothing But Static.
It'll be up. Check it out.
By the time you hear this, it'll be up. So basically, we go through, it's an excuse to go through the previous year's worth of TV, and how we do that is the format of technically an award show, but not really. It's sort of a game where we both choose nominations for each of the categories, like best comedy or best dramedy or best actor, whatever.
Best scene, most devastating cancellation, best performance, lots of stuff.
Yeah. And then we both have nominations. We read out each other's and then debate which show should get it. So it's good fun. It's a long one. We do a song because it's an award show. You got to have an opening number.
I think it's our best song.
One of the best songs we've done, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Chris has worth Chris people checking it out just for that.
Chris spits some bars.
Oh yeah, well, your bit of the song's particularly good. My bit's the same shit I offer up every year.
No, elevated because I'm playing music on it this time.
That's very true. But that means we're in the same room, which is rare for this podcast.
Yeah, so we've done that, and we decided we'd do a quick. We had a bit of time. We thought we'd watch it at SU, and
we were excited. It's been a few weeks since because last week we
like to do the bombs together, but
we do. It's because we do Picked Up, Put Down, which is the episode prior to the Statics, where we look at all the upfront trailers. That's quite a mammoth task.
This is the problem. See, this time of year we do 3 big podcasts on the Nothing But Static feed that are unusual in a row. We do Picked Up, Put Down, which is after the upfronts. We talk about all the brand new trailers, and I mean all, like an hour and a half's worth of fucking trailers, and we discuss every one of them. So you can imagine that takes like 2-3 hours, which it does. Then we do the Statics, which we've discussed, and then we do our big after party episode, which is basically a normal episode, Nothing But Static, but we do it drunk. And that tends to push everything else to the side. So while we normally like to record Steven Universe bombs sort of as close to each other as possible, so we get the bomb feeling, we've had to put a gap in this one to record both the Statics, write the song for the Statics, which obviously took a long time, Chris. And we certainly didn't throw it together this morning and rehearse it once.
No.
We also have, of course, the other thing, the Picked and Put Down. And it just meant that we really couldn't fit it in.
But I think if any bomb, this bomb, where essentially they're a bomb because we get a shadow at the end of every episode, is certainly at this stage a bomb where it's okay to do that.
If they pay that shadow off in the very next episode, though, I think that's okay.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree. So yeah, that's why we're together.
It's all in the same room, which we're very rarely in the same room for these.
Certainly for this one, for SU,
we've done it a few times. We had the Tired Quadrilogy where we did like 4 episodes in a morning,
which we're not going to do this time.
I
think this one will be fun because there's lots to chat about. But yeah, we're just doing the one.
Yeah, and we've got enough energy for this, I feel. And then we're gonna go get a Chinese, for those wondering.
I don't think anyone was wondering, God, how are they spending the rest of their evening? But that'll be nice. We don't hang out. Whenever we see each other in person, it tends to be quickly meet up, do a podcast, and part ways. Yeah, so this time we're hanging out. I mean, Dan's girlfriend's ruining it by tagging along, but
third wheel in it. What a bitch!
What a bitch!
She's offered to pay for the meal as well. Fucking selfish arsehole.
Jesus, just trying to muscle her way in.
What an arse!
That would be lovely to see Nadia as well. I've seen Nadia in ages.
Yeah, it would have been a while. You're gonna give her one of your patented awkward hugs.
She loves it.
Because the thing is, Nadia and Chris know each other pretty well and have known each other for a few years, but they've never spent an extended amount of time with each other. So it's always like there's a huge amount of familiarity there, but it always leads to some sort of awkwardness.
It's like we're. I think cousins is unfair, but do you know what I mean? Family members that you are really close to, but you just don't see that often.
Yeah.
Like I feel like family with Nadia.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, you know, like,
but and then she'll walk through the door, you'll give her a hug, and there'll be this brief moment where it just feels awkward.
It doesn't help that I point it out though.
Yeah,
that's what I mean by she loves it, because I'm always like, oh, shall we have a hug? And she's like, oh, fuck, okay.
Yeah, pointing it out does not help with the awkwardness. Anyway, let's talk about The Good Lars. So this week I'm gonna try to watch this for. Watch this. So this week we'll be discussing The Good Lars. Chris, what was it about? See how I got us straight back on track with the usual patter.
No, because you then fucking interrupted to say what you were doing. So
and say, look at this.
Yeah,
it's like someone going, look at this, and then doing a backflip. It's like you drew attention to it.
Yeah,
you should have just done a backflip.
Yeah, exactly.
That would have been impressive.
It's a loud door noise. If it's Nadia and we get the awkward hug.
No, it's not. I'm afraid it seems to be our neighbour. Yeah, my door rattles in its frame if not all of my neighbours in this building, but there's the neighbour across the way, the door directly close to mine. When their door slams, my entire door frame rattles.
Yeah, nice.
So I know when they're in and out, basically. It's hard not to.
Oh yeah.
So what was The Good Lars about, Chris?
Yeah, I'm now going to go on a 5-minute tangent about you listening to your neighbours have sex. We're not too tired.
Which wouldn't be possible, Chris, because unfortunately, I mean, I say unfortunately, fortunately, really, but in the context of the world you've created where I'm trying to, with my ear at the wall with a glass.
Yeah.
The walls here are very thick.
Oh, really?
You very rarely hear them talking or watching TV or anything next door.
Oh, fair play. So The Good Lars. Lars and Stephen and Sadie are hanging out at the donut shop.
Chilling.
The mayor's son comes in to invite them to what's he called it? Potluck?
Buck Dewey, by the way. Please call him Buck Dewey. You keep calling him the mayor's son.
I don't know his name.
Buck.
It's
4 letters, mate.
Buck comes in.
It rhymes with
and
fuck.
Then Buck says...
Oh, Jesus.
No, what is it called?
Potluck. Which is everyone brings food to a thing and then you just sort of share.
Yeah. Sounds like fun.
I've never actually been to one. It's not really a thing in the UK, but from what I understand, it's a bit of a thing in the States.
And I mean, we don't need to do it tonight. Nadia's paying for dinner.
Oh, yeah.
She's not. I will split it with her. I'll buy it myself. Like, fucking hell. Even when I'm trying to be generous, I'm still not offering to fully pay. She doesn't need to do that, Dan. I will split it.
That's hilarious.
So, no, I can pay.
Dear Lord, this should not become the subject of this podcast.
So, Buck comes in, and then...
Buck, you're going to put emphasis on Buck every time
invites
I called you out.
Buck invites them to the potluck. Lars gets nervous, because even though they're eating some pumpkin bread, which is pumpkin bread shaped like a pumpkin, and are particularly excited about this, Lars wants to kind of hide his baking skills. So they go back to Lars's. They have a chat. They plan to cook something with sweet potato and yams, and then make a blue cake, which seemed odd to me. But
no, the kind of food it is often compared to. It's not. He was trying to describe it. It's called.
Oh, okay.
It is a sort of cake roll called an ube, and it's a delicacy in the Philippines. And ube is a term used in the Philippines to refer to a purple yam.
No, okay.
It's not what it is, but that's where that comes from.
Okay, fine. So they make the cake, they have a good time, and then Lars reveals that he's nervous about going because he's nervous about kind of showing them who he really is. And he says, if I turn up with the cake, they'll know I love baking. And if I turn up... No, I'll turn up with the cake and with Sadie, and they'll know I love baking, and they'll know I love... And then he goes red, and I was like, Lars Sadie moment, loved it. Loved it.
Good moment.
And then they... Stephen kind of says to him, no, they're your friends. They want to kind of see you. Come along. He's like, okay, fine. And then it comes to the cool party. Lars isn't there, but Stephen arrives. There's some cool party banter. Sadie arrives. I'll come to it in a sec, but I think what this episode reminded me of was just kind of how cool the cool kids are. And I love that aspect. Sadie ends up settling in and getting on really well with them. I hope you're not recording me because I'm not looking my best.
No, my cat was just on the sofa next to you, looking up at you with interest, and it just was such a funny image. My cat was just staring at you like as if he was listening intently. So I tried to get a picture of him doing that, but sadly he looked away before I could snap the shot. So and I was waiting for him to look back, and he never did.
Fair enough. But Lars never shows. So Stephen goes looking for him, can't find him. Sadie and Stephen conclude that that's a shame. They walk off. Sadie walks off, and they are followed then by these mysterious shadows.
Sadie is.
Sadie is. I don't think Lars bottled it. I think Lars has been taken by whoever these shadows belong to.
Ooh, good theory.
Because I don't see the point really in Lars bottling it. Unless it's a two-parter that deals with Lars' feelings. I think the more
that'd be good conflict anyway, wouldn't it? I mean, the food's in the bin, so there's a certain amount of Lars bottling it. Or unless you think you took him.
I think aliens. I think they're aliens that kidnap children but tidy up after themselves. That's my theory.
So specific. There's world famous cleaning up.
That's
aliens.
their motive.
Yeah, they're like the like
a great Mindhunter episode.
You know people who say that like gnomes sneak into their house at night and clean up, like people like that old superstition about like gnomes tidying up your house overnight or whatever. That's because children were getting kidnapped from houses and they were just going too far with the cleaning. They weren't just
right. I mean,
the aliens.
I looked at you then like that was a true thing, didn't I?
Yeah, you did. Like the aliens. The aliens would come in. They would kidnap the thing, but then go, "Shit, how much of this mess did we make, and how much was already here?" And they'd go too far with the cleaning.
Yes, and end up cleaning up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my theory. Although I did love the last stuff, I thought that was fascinating. Obviously, the peak of his feelings for Sadie was amazing. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a good episode. I thought it was there was some funny bits. It was a good time. I like a Lars episode. I like a Sadie episode. I like the cool kids. Again, my favourite part of this episode was just how cool the cool kids are. The fact that they don't think of themselves as the cool kids.
That's what's so good about
welcoming
the show.
People.
Yeah, they're welcoming, nice, accepting. Like, oh, you brought plates, awesome. Like they're just nice people, decent people, and that's like it's.
I could
so
do with
good.
sacking off a few of my existing friends and getting friends like the cool kids.
Yeah, well, that's what's amazing is they're so supportive, they're so nice, and it's sort of it goes against the grain because usually in TV show the cool kids are up themselves and like that's kind of like a trope, I suppose. You get that a lot, and I think what's really cool about the cool kids as they are in Steven Universe is they buck that trend, buck. There you go. So they sort of it's more about. They're cool because they're just nice people, and in a weird way, Lars doesn't fit in with them because he's never himself. He's always trying to be someone else, and he's hiding the things about him that make him him. He doesn't want them to know he likes baking because he's worried they'll think it's lame, and it's a really powerful story, and it does harken on themes we've hit on before, particularly with the episode Lars and the Cool Kids, which is when he was in the car with them and he was like, snakes are lame, and they're like, no, snakes are cool or whatever, and like everything he said, they were like, and he was like, seatbelt, and they're like, well, you better buckle up or we're not moving, safety first, that whole shtick. So it's kind of playing on that, but in a slightly more unique way, because what they've zoned in on this time that I think separates it from that episode, it's not just a general Lars trying too hard to befriend them by being someone he's not. They're now looking at the other side of that coin, which is hiding the things that make him him. It turns out he really likes baking, and there've been hints at him cooking before, actually, because like when they were stranded on Mask Island, in Island Adventure, he cooked fish and said he was like, "This fish is amazing, Lars. How did you cook this?" Like he's clearly had a secret passion for food. Like,
that's cool that they've embedded that in.
Yeah. Then there's a few other references. I hope some of them are listed in there. I've not double checked, but I think there's been a couple of references to his food love before. So we'll go back to that in a minute. But yeah, I think
Sadie singing and stuff that was embedded into this one.
Yes, I want to talk about that as well because I think that's really cool. So there's so much good stuff in this one. I particularly feel for Lars because having a passion that you're not sure everyone will be on board with, and like feeling like it's not something I relate to directly in the sense of I've ever had that experience, but I did relate to it in that it felt very human, it felt very relatable, it felt very believable. Like having an aspect to yourself you're a little bit scared of putting out there in case of reaction, and it's a softer version of it. I think that what this show has slowly done with the Lars story is make him go from being a bit of a prick. Because not being yourself makes you a bit of a prick sometimes, especially if you're being like doing it just to get in with some other people. But the more we learn about him and the more socially awkward we know he really is underneath.
Well, it's such a relatable thing. Like it's it's really funny. I was listening, and Audible plug. If you follow our link and go on Audible, you can get a podcast called Ricky Gervais's Deadly Serious for like £1.64 for 4 episodes. And in
audibletrial.com/nothingbutstatic for a subscription. You can actually get the first set of those with a credit if you wanted to, which you get because you get one free audiobook with it. Although I would say
you get one free audiobook a month.
What if you continue the subscription? Yeah, so you get a 30-day free trial, which comes with your first credit, and if you then pay for it monthly, you get a credit a month. Which I let a couple build up recently, and I got the last 2 books in the Game of Thrones series.
Oh, cool!
Audible. They're really well read actually on the Audible. But it might even be worth saving your credit for something else and just paying the $1.70 for the
because it's so cheap. Yeah,
because it's quite cheap. £1 odd or $1 odd.
So,
maybe
so it might be like $2.
$2, let's say, and like whereas if you could use that same credit to buy like the Stephen Fry read Sherlock Holmes, which is like 72 hours worth of content that's normally worth like 30-40 quid, I think.
Yeah.
God knows how many dollars. So yeah, I think that's
fair.
But anyway,
but he's talking about David Brent from The Office, which obviously he created. And he's talking about how one of the reasons he thinks it appeals to people so much is because social awkwardness is one of the few plights we have now. It's stuff like the more traditional sitcoms, dealing with, not everyone's been to prison like Porridge, and not everyone's experiencing the kind of poverty they felt in Only Fools and Horses or whatever. But social awkwardness is universal, and it's a thing that in a modern society where we have instant access to everything, from food to drink to friends, unfortunately for the younger generation, social media, Zuckerberg,
noises. Sorry, I just wanted to take part in your yelling to the sky.
I told you about the Zuckerberg thing, didn't I? I'm sure. Yeah. I'm sure I brought that.
I don't know if you brought it up on the podcast.
I think I did. Basically, long story short, if I didn't, my dad just tends to, for some reason, blame Mark Zuckerberg for everything. So whenever something mild happens in our house, we go Zuckerberg. And it applies to that. The Lars character is, I think, one of the reasons audiences have grown to love him. If what you're saying is, reflect what we're feeling is reflective across audiences.
I don't know if it's reflected across all audience, but I do know there's a definite chunk of fandom that prefer Lars now to when he first showed up.
And I think it's because of how relatable social awkwardness is to people, and how much of a thing that is, and how you can get great comedy from it. The bingo bongo thing. Which, is that a phrase that's been used on the show before? I feel like it is.
I feel like it is as well, but I mostly recall it from this episode.
Right,
so,
okay.
If it has been used before, it wasn't made such a point of. But yeah, for those who don't, I'm sure most people remember because it is quite an iconic moment now. Like him going, I think it became a bit of a meme on the Steven Universe subreddit for a while.
It's so funny. I did enjoy that.
And it's just him pointing at bingo bongo, and he puts his face in his hands like, oh god, I did bingo bongo. What was I thinking? And then later on, when he's not around, the cool kids are like, I think,
he says it's so transparent or something. I love the
goes, he said this thing, bingo bongo, it was transcendent. Yeah. and then then Sour Cream's like, oh, that's really cool, bingo bongo. And it's so good.
Because it's Sour Cream's house. I don't know if they set up that all of them were away, but I love the idea that throughout this episode, Onion is creeping around somewhere.
Yeah.
Just doing his Onion
They don't
creepy
need to
thing.
show it. They don't need it to be there at all. Just the idea that Onion is somewhere in a vent or something, watching it, slowly eating a shoe.
Yeah.
They
probably would be. And that, to be honest with you, I hate to I hate to give... we do a bit. I think sometimes we overanalyze the fact that these episodes are bombs, but I tell you what, you want to link the bomb a bit more. Maybe you just have they walk in, and Steven's like, "What's up?" Onion runs up the stairs. They're like, "What's up with Onion?" And Sour Cream goes, "I don't know. He's been scared for days now." You just, just a subtle...
Unless your theory is correct that they're stealing children because they were shut up behind Onion.
If
your theory that Lars was kidnapped is correct, their shadows came up behind Onion.
Yeah.
The logic would be
that they have Onion and that they're about to take Sadie.
I'm going off your own theory.
Yeah. I think that is a good logic then. But why? Why are they picking off the kids, Dan?
Hard to say, Chris. Because I'm not even sure that's necessarily... That might not even be what's happening. That theory might be way off.
I hope that's what's happened, because I think
is that a better payoff to the shadows? Than
It's better
being about.
It's a better notion than Lars completely bottling it. Unless the beginning of the next episode is Stephen finding Lars and he has more of a chat about his thing. But that's a weird beginning. That's a weird episode.
Or could both be true. Lars was about to bottle it and then got grabbed. The food is in the bin.
Yeah, maybe the food is in the bin.
So at some point he'd consider bottling it.
Or the aliens put the food in the bin.
Start again. They are the tiniest.
I don't think that's completely like.
When you're kidnapping
out of the
someone,
realms.
tidying up after yourself isn't exactly the
I've
first
never
thought.
kidnapped anyone, Dan.
Oh, well, I've kidnapped several people, Chris, and take it from experience that you don't really. You want to move quick. They scream. They like.
See, that's
That was
why
very dark.
That's why I think you've not kidnapped anyone. Not because I have faith in your morality, but because I just don't think you'd move that quick.
Oh, no, you're right. I'm too lazy for it. Although on our last podcast there was
I thought about that, but I wasn't going to bring it up. But go on.
Yeah, in our last podcast there was a weird allusion to the possibility that for some reason I've kidnapped Jessica Simpson and that she's in a cupboard somewhere.
And that's why she's not been about much recently. It was really weird. I didn't condone it.
I don't know how
It
we
was
got
bizarre.
into that. I'm not even sure how that came up.
Really early.
You want to
as well,
find
that
out what was
came
going
up.
on with that? Go and listen to this week's the episode that went up on the 7th of June, which is the statics, and find out more. Anyway,
what did I've started that not actually having a question. What did you think at this point then? What was your theory, or what did you think was happening?
I don't think I was clever enough to theorize kidnapping, but I watched all of this pretty much in one, if memory serves. So I was just like, why even think? Put on the next one. Do you know what I mean? I didn't sit to analyze. So maybe if I'd sat and thought about it, I'd have landed on a similar theory, because certainly evidence suggests that might be what's happening, because it's nicer to think that Lars didn't bottle it. Because you're on his side now. You want him to overcome his social anxiety.
Yeah, I think that's a big part.
And that's why it's heartbreaking when you first see the cake in the bin. Because you
even made it. Oh no!
Like,
you
and
fucking know what's going to happen.
No, and it still gets me every time, because you're on his side at this point, because they've brought you round to understanding where he's coming from, and because you understand him now, you think he's less of a dickhead, and you sort of empathise with him almost, and like.
So where's the line for that for you? What's the point where you're just like, if they do, regardless of what's going on, whether he's been kidnapped or whatever, if they do another plot where Lars is ashamed almost of Sadie, which was kind of in that moment he kind of reveals that he loves her, but he also reveals that he's a little bit ashamed of that, which is not good.
Which is not good, and also like the cool kids. We'll talk about this properly later, but the cool kids seem to really get on with Sadie.
Yeah.
They have a really good little relationship that they develop very quickly in this episode. Actually,
how many episodes of Lars is awkward are you going to give him? Because surely once you do that story a couple more times, you're going, Lars needs to get over himself.
Well, I think you're kind of at that point now.
I don't think I'm quite there yet, because this was such an enjoyable episode.
No, but I know.
That's probably why I want the conclusion to be kidnapped, not him bottling it.
No, I understand, but I think what I'm saying is, I think you're at the bottleneck of that now, which is why you're so eager for him to
have that growth.
Yeah. Because I think you're at the point now where you're going, I need progress. I can't have him continue to be like this. Which is why you're not stretching, but like reaching for the idea that he didn't bottle it and that he was going to make the right call and go to the party like a grown up and a braver person, basically, which is what we need him to be. And that would be him showing up would have been a satisfying thing.
Would have been a great conclusion.
And you
to the episode.
want that, but then you feel if you're right and this is kidnapping. Then there's an element of tragedy to it, because it's like he nearly made the right call and that option was taken from him.
You did, or at least I personally, and this may be from a, doing the writing degree, which I did with Dan, for those that don't know, and having some idea of structure. I did know that wasn't happening, because you don't do the beat of Stephen teaching him that mid-episode, because then you'd finish the episode and go, oh yeah, Lars learnt a lesson. So you'd have that beat towards the end, as opposed to the midpoint. So I was like, well, something's going to happen. He's gonna bottle it in some way. It's a bit like the last episode where we were like, oh, it's a really good episode, but if it wasn't part of a bomb and the conclusion was this, then that would be a bit flat. I think because you've got this extra element of these two, whatever they are, roaming about. adds a nice layer to it. What did you want to say about Sadie and the Cool Kids?
Yeah, I just thought it was really neat how quickly they made me believe that those people would get on really well. Like instantly, like they do a really good job of easing her in, making it seem like she feels a bit awkward, like she shouldn't be there. Like she feels like that.
Oh, absolutely.
And then they do a great job of like having those guys be all like, "Hey, cool, Sadie, donut girl. Like, let's get to know you. Come sit down. Let's be friends." Like, and then but Stephen goes away, and they were very clever to obviously make a lot of the progress happen while Stephen's out looking for Lars, which is clever for a couple of reasons. Because when you come back, you don't need to have been shown how they go from A to C. You know B happened with C. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of hard to explain,
definitely.
But it's a little shortcut to convincing you that that's gone through without having to spend too much of the episode's time on that. Because ultimately, this is a Lars episode. And I think it's important that you focus on that and make it about that. But at the same time, they obviously want to build this Sadie thing into the background of it. Which, as a little hint for you for the future, Chris, they do continue Sadie and the Cool Kids.
Oh, that's cool. That's nice.
That's not going away. And I some people will yell at me for sort of hinting and teasing there, but I mean, it's not necessarily too much for us to. Yeah, not what I was going to say.
I'm joking.
No, but I think that like that's a small enough of a tease because it doesn't tell you exactly how it plays out.
I look forward to seeing more of them.
That doesn't basically drop dead here, is what I'm getting at. Which I suppose you could have predicted.
Possibly, but then that group seems to be quite fluid with who they let in and out. Like Stephen, like
sort of sometimes
sometimes with them, sometimes not. Because it felt like because there was another bit of it. What was it? I think I remember thinking at the beginning, like, oh, isn't it funny that like whenever Stephen's with Lars and Sadie, adventures find them. But then I was kind of like, well, you just have to assume he is in the donut shop a lot. And we don't see it necessarily. Not
just that, but also, like, we don't know what's happening to Sadie and Lars when Stephen's not around.
Yeah.
So, like, they could be getting into, not adventures as such, because obviously Stephen's the catalyst for a lot of the, like, gem-based. So you couldn't put them stuck on Mask Island without Stephen, obviously. But, like, other stuff happening to them. Like, this story could have happened without Stephen. Had Stephen not been in the donut shop, Buck would have come in and potentially offered them to come to the potluck. Because he initially points to Lars and says, "We want you to come to the potluck."
Yeah, and then he says, "You should all come."
Yeah, he asked Lars. He considered Lars. And he went to the donut shop. If he wanted to invite Stephen, he'd have gone to Stephen's house.
How upsetting is it that he directly invited Lars and Lars is still so worried?
Yeah.
Because that's the point where you would hopefully go, and
they've
maybe
accepted
the lesson
you to
is
some
to
point.
Go, they've accepted you, they've asked.
They want to get to know you. They don't know you. They want to, though, because they wouldn't have invited you if they didn't.
Yeah. It's like, Jess said yes to marrying me. Why do I still worry that eventually she's going to come to her senses? I don't. I mean, that would make sense.
But it's weird because it's like there's something very relatable about that.
Catch.
Like, I'm not addressing that.
Why? Because you believe it. Because you're like,
yeah,
she could do so much better than you.
Yeah, but so could Nadia. So I think it's hard for me to.
Yeah,
we're both in that boat where we've both gotten very lucky.
They have significantly lowered their standards.
We've tricked them both.
I don't think we've tricked them.
I feel like I tricked Nadia. She got together with me. I was 16, 17, as was she, and I had long hair. I was in a band. I was skinny, like stick thin. Skinny.
We could form a band.
Yeah, but I'd still.
It sounds like less work than going on a diet.
I'd still be a 30-year-old guy with multiple.
I don't think
chins.
You're big now, by the way. Can I just say?
I'm feeling pretty big.
I've seen pictures of you at 16. You're bigger than you were at 16.
Oh, yeah. That's an understatement. That's before I'd done my eating years. Dan
Doolan, the eating years.
That's the novel that's coming out later this year. So, it's not autobiographical. But forgetting that for a second, not forgetting the point that you were going to, forgetting the weird tangent about how we are definitely punching above our weight. Like, in terms of the awkward socialness of it, like it's weirdly relatable to me because I think back as well to I think back to uni. I went into the second year. So when I went into my first year of uni, no one knew anyone because it was the first year, right? And then everyone got to know each other, and it was all about introducing yourself to people and what have you. And then I, for reasons that were very much out of my control, had a year off. So when I came back,
they were a little bit in your control, Dan.
You
could have done the assignment, couldn't you? Everyone else on your year managed it.
Try to scoot round it. Thanks, Chris. There was a situation with an unimportant 5-6. No, actually, no, because they offered me the chance to do it over the summer, but the letter never reached me.
Yes, I remember. Yeah.
So that was kind of out of my control.
Yeah, no, it was.
Mail going astray. And
you ended up not doing an assignment, and yeah.
It was like a tiny bullshit like personal planning and development assignment that like I remember PDP. Fucking hell, no one liked doing it. No one took it seriously. It was worth like a fraction of a percent of my grade, and like I'd forgotten to do it, and then they sent out a letter in the summer like, if you want to come back on the course next year, like you've got to do it in the summer, and the letter never reached me. So when I got back, I should
memory serves you turned up, didn't you?
I turned up for a course I was not on my second year, so I went away.
Being the guy that had to break that news to you, Jesus.
Yeah, it was not fun for anyone involved. Anyway, that's horrible flashbacks.
Some wounds, sorry.
But yeah, fucking hell, Jesus Christ.
Amusing though.
So I went. No.
Worked out for the best, I'd argue.
Very much so, because then I went back and had a much better relationship with that group.
Which I assume you were about to tell, so yes.
So second year I go into it, and it's no longer the group of people I went into first year with, because those people are now in third year, because they did second year while I had a gap year, and then they moved into third. So I had to come back in at second year, which was your year, and you'd done first year while I was in my gap year.
Yes, yeah,
but I'm
correct,
coming into a class that of people I do not know, who have already made their friends, who have already made their cliques, and already
it was quite clicky,
very clicky. And I ended up with, I'm gonna say, the losers, the rejects.
I'm not saying anything.
There was a group of people that felt like they were thrown together because they hadn't quite fit in anywhere else. They were the misfits, let's be honest. If they were in an American teen sitcom, that other people would go, oh, it's the group of losers. I'm not saying they were actually losers. I'm just saying that if we're labeling like in the American version of what a educational sort of like clique system is, they were the misfitty ones. They were sort of banded together just because no one else would have them, and not because they were bad people, because they just didn't quite fit socially, and that's what happened. Now, because I didn't have any other group, and I got assigned with them, so it was first project was a group project, and everyone buddied up with their friends, and then these three guys were just sort of like on their own, and everyone else's group was 4, and theirs was 3, so I got stuck with them, and was immediately stuck with the misfits with no opportunity to meet any group, and it was very, very challenging to sort of break my way into a friend group that existed and was already functional, because you don't know what the dynamics are, you don't know what the people are, and in the end I just forced myself on Chris. And there was I remember the moment when it shifted, when there was a couple of days where I'd spoken to you, Chris, and like your sort of group of friends a couple times during and after lectures and stuff, and there was a day when I came in, and I swear it was like out of a bad movie. Front row was the land of misfit toys, and they're going, "Oh, Dan, come sit with us." And I swear, at towards the back, Chris and the group that I ultimately became friends with, like Robin and Tom, and
if memories
hung the fuck over.
What we were hung over?
Yes. From a drinks I was not invited to. Just saying. No. And literally it was like,
I believe it was Robin.
I think it was, which is hilarious, because in the end I don't think Robin. I was very hot and cold with Robin, I feel.
As everyone was, except me, it seems. She's still.
I love Robin a bit, but like I feel like she had one day I would feel like she was very much on my side, and then one day I'd feel like she wanted to, So punch me in the face one day, be my friend the next.
A lot of people felt that way with Robin. She's still one of my closest friends, but she had she didn't really give a shit. And if memory served, the fact that she was hungover made that worse. And if memory served, you went to sit with them, and she literally yelled across the thing, like something along the lines of, "Dan, what the fuck are you doing? Come sit with us," or something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, literally. And it was like, to relate it to the episode, that's the cool kids coming to Lars.
Well, I mean, I know the group you're talking about. I wouldn't define us as the cool kids, but
no.
In your head, I understand.
No, not so much. The people that I most felt like I would fit in with.
Yeah. Was this after then the day that we chatted? Because you essentially, I think you overheard me mention The Office, and you were like, "I've got an Office."
No, I was
t-shirt.
I was wearing The Office.
No. But I reckon you then put it on the next time. You were like,
"No, I think I was wearing it, and you came to me because I was set because you saw it." I think that's what it was. I don't think I came to you like, "Oh, hey, you like The Office?"
Yeah.
No, I was wearing the shirt, and then you brought it up because I was wearing an Office t-shirt. I had the Dwight coded t-shirt, which is from the show.
And back then, not that many people, like, it hadn't been on Netflix and stuff. The Office was quite a niche
the American
thing to be
one
into.
for sure.
The American one.
The British one was quite popular, but the American one was.
They were just starting season 4, so
but,
it was
But it was like. But it was that you were the guys that I'd most, in the brief interactions I had, would be most interested in sort of spending time with. Like, you were the people I was most interested in getting to know, the same way that, and I'm not, this isn't me forcing Lars and the Cool Kids into this. This is like legitimately how it relates to me. There's this group of people that he feels like he wants to be in that group with, whether for shallow reasons or not. He thinks of them as the cool kids, and I suppose really that's him feeling like the way I did, which is these are the people I want to spend time with or get to know, at least. I mean, maybe I'll get to know them and they'll be dickheads and I'll move on. That's fine. But like, those are the people that I feel like I've got the most kinship with, the highest odds of getting on with. And it was a blessing, really, that I'd missed the year before, because then I did sit with you guys. We did hang out a lot more. And
then live together.
Together in third year.
Fucking doing this like 10 years later. So,
and like it worked out really well, and I got on with you guys better than I got on with anyone from my first group. So, but I relate to the last situation here because I understand that weird social pressure of a group that's already formed. They're already friends. How awkward it can be to sort of be the new person in an existing clique, and how hard it can be to be let in because you've got to be let in.
Yeah,
I had to have that moment where Robin goes, "What are you doing? Fucking sit with us!" Because if I couldn't have just sat down next to you guys.
Yeah. Well, you could have, but you in your head you couldn't have. Yeah.
I could have known you guys now. But socially, that feels like a faux pas.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And that's what I think. I think that's why I relate so much to the Lars character sometimes, because even though I don't feel like I was ever not being myself, the struggle of moving towards a friendship group and being part of that group is real. That can be, especially if you have anxiety or any sort of social hang-ups at all, like which Lars obviously has many. And of course, I actually hate the American Office, Chris. I just pretended to like it because I knew it came with you. I heard you talking about it and bought the shirt. No, I'm kidding.
You did a good job. We did a 2-hour podcast on it.
Yeah, we did. That's true. I watched it afterwards just to get familiar.
To catch up. I think I agree. My instinct happened in school. It was less about being accepted by a group. It was more about not being not being like bullied is a big word, but not being like seen as a potential target for bullying. And I remember the moment, just because you got deep, so I'll get a little deep. The moment it changed for me is, we mentioned it earlier in the statics. I got a nickname from school, which is Spam, which was Billingham Spam. And I remember the day it was in an art lesson, and one of the cool kids, his name was Will, just randomly started singing. Was it Beehive Man? Had just come out with "Because I Got High." Remember that song, Beehive Man? And he just randomly went spam. I'm gonna call you spam. And I'd be like, yeah. And at first, in that moment, I was like, Jesus. I was like, okay, spam. And he was like, right, we're gonna sing the song. So I'm gonna go Spam smokes, and you go I smoke, and I didn't smoke and still don't smoke, and I was like, not anti-smoking, but you know what I mean, back then I was very much like, I don't smoke, so I didn't want to do it, and he's going Spam smokes, and I'm like, I smoke, like really reluctantly, because I don't want to get beaten up or whatever. It's like, Spam drinks. I'm like, none of these things are true. I'm like,
so this is
I
so
drink
new.
like, and he does this, and then the Spams thing stuck, but what it meant was, and I remember a moment like a year later, whatever. In fact, this might have been many years later, but I remember again, one of the cool kids was kicking around a football. Because cool kid can often mean dick, can often mean bully. And he was kicking this football at a group of people I was stood with. And one of the footballs hit a friend of mine on the head. And sometimes you glaze over and you lose sense of what you're doing because you're just so annoyed. Yeah. So I picked up the ball, went up to him, stood as close as I am to him, you now, which is only like a step away, and just threw the ball at his head. And it just hit his head and ricocheted off. And he grabbed my throat. And suddenly this swarm of people swarmed in, as they do when a fight is about to come.
Yeah.
But instead of swarming on me, as I thought was happening, they all swarmed on him. And they went, nah, Spam's cool. Spam, it's Spam. Let go of him. So the dude let go of me, very confused, because he was in like a different class, different set,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
It's very like, who the fuck's Spam? Oh, no, fine. I'll let him go. Like, but it's because
Sorry, I didn't mean to hurt your precious spam.
Exactly. But it's because I'd been given an identity. It's because
that's
I'd
exactly
been
what I was going
given
to say.
a tag by them. So although it didn't ever mean
Yes.
I hung out with them, actually
They knew
it
who
was
you
a
were.
seal of approval, and it was
Yes.
spam, and that
Yes, yes.
kind of then protected me, like
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
like kind of still bumped into a bunch of them on the train station the other day.
I was going to say not today because that'd be
No,
really
the other day, and they were
coincidence.
like, spam, and I was like, oh, hey, and we had a chat, and it sounds really bizarre, but I don't think if I hadn't have had that identity, I would have, still, they would have been like, didn't we go to school with that kid?
Yes,
Like, oh, yeah.
yes.
But so going back to the episode, what I love about it is, like, you and I had to go through stuff like that, but hopefully there's a kid watching this, hopefully seeing, at least subliminally, the message the show's trying to get across, which is just be yourself. He does the bingo bongo thing, and he thinks it's a fuck up, but they show later on without him there, and even though the character doesn't see it, the audience sees it, and that's hopefully really important.
And you look at the difference in the success of Sadie and Lars. Sadie shows up, is completely herself, brings plates, even though she thinks it's lame, she commits to it.
Yeah.
And they love it, and she gets to sit in the beanbag chair, and then she starts singing songs with them, and it's like, it's a whole thing.
Which she doesn't do. She doesn't like to sing in public, as set up in Sadie's song.
100%, which is why this show is
really
so fucking
important
genius. How many
message there.
layers this is. So yeah, you're absolutely right. The message, and it was the same, it was the similar message to that of Lars and the Cool Kids, but I think it's hit at a different angle here, and I think that's why this works so well.
I think it's hit because it's showing, not telling. It's not telling Lars, be yourself. It's showing the audience.
It's showing the audience,
you should be yourself.
Be yourself, success, hide yourself away, failure.
Yeah, because you don't get to experience that, and you've potentially been kidnapped.
Yeah, by aliens that tidy up after
that's
themselves.
not the message. Be yourself
No,
or
I'm
get
kidding.
kidnapped. But like,
Be yourself or be kidnapped by aliens that want to clean up after you. But no, I think that's really important, and I absolutely agree. I like the idea that any kids watching this might get that message from it. And it's not the first time this show has had a deeper meaning to an episode, but there are a handful of episodes of this show that have a really important message to them. I thought Mindful Education was one, and I do a little bit think this is the other, like one of the others. Like,
yeah, I think it's not as. I don't know if a child would pick that up, but I hope they do.
Yeah, it is more subtle than Mindful Education, which is a bit more on the nose. We've had to sort of wander around the topic to sort of land on why it's so important. But I think it is. I think these are valuable lessons, and I also think that it's a compelling character story. I think Lars is compelling. I think
I do.
They've done an incredible job making him feel very human, and that is important.
I'm very invested in Lars.
Yeah, I think it's good writing. I mean, ultimately, it's just good writing. It's good character and cast design too. You got to give the show credit for implementing a world where we got the cool kids who are nice people and therefore are accepting, and then you've got Lars and Sadie who both go on these two different paths, and Sadie ends up being friends with them, and Lars doesn't.
Yeah.
And it's kind of his own fault, especially if he did bottle it.
It comes from, you understand where it comes from, but yeah, it's his own actions or anxieties that get in the way.
Also worth noting, not to step on the trip, but if you look when Stephen shows up to the party, you can see the cake in the trash can already, which means that Lars, whatever happened to Lars, happened prior to Stephen even arriving.
Oh, okay. Well,
so he would have been the first there.
What other triv have you got, Dan?
Let's have a look. Stephen enjoys eating Lars's pumpkin bread cake, despite the fact that one of his friends is a pumpkin. I don't know if that's trivia or just observing what happened in the episode, but apparently when leaving Lars's house, Sadie shouts, "It's happening, Lars and the Cool Kids," which could be just a reference to the title of Lars and the Cool Kids. Chris is nodding.
Sorry, my back's hurting, so I keep leaning back.
No, you
I
lean back,
apologise.
you relax.
I apologise.
No, lean back.
No, but I know it's a pain moving to and fro changes my position, but just trying to stretch my back.
I'll tell you what, mate. You lean back for a minute.
Oh, cheers,
I'll
mate.
take the reins.
Oh, cheers, buddy.
Give you a minute. I'll give you a little break. It's cool. I feel you. One can see. Oh yeah, this one. Yeah, as before Stephen enters the house, Lars's ube is already in the trash can, meaning it was there before Stephen arrived, or he was there before Stephen arrived. We've already mentioned the ube is a cake roll, a delicacy in the Philippines. I noticed this on this rewatch, but in the background, and I mentioned it to Chris while we were watching, in the background of the shot in Lars's house when he's baking, there's a sort of stick figure-y, vague version of an AT-AT from or an AT, depending on your Star Wars sort of. It's an AT-AT. It's an acronym. You don't say AT-AT. It's weird. Then again, you say C-3PO like a word, don't you? I don't know. Weird. There's an AT-AT on the wall, drawn in the background with like 10 written on it, suggesting Lars drew that when he was 10, which I thought was kind of cute. Obviously, we've already mentioned that the Lars's cooking skills were already been hinted at, particularly in Island Adventure, when Sadie praises Lars' cooked fish. Stephen mentions he got somewhere in between the events of Ocean Gem and Back to the Moon, which is...
That's a very funny line. He says, doesn't he say somewhere between learning how to get control my shield and learning my mum was a war criminal? Which, a very funny line.
Which, in my opinion, is actually learning how to control shield is really the first episode where he learns to draw the weapon. So from episode 1 to like a pretty recent episode, it's a good gag. It's a really good gag. Stephen makes his snack sushi that we've already seen him make in Cooking with Lion. That's what he brings to the party, if you notice. They don't bring... I don't think they actually... Does he directly mention it? No, I don't think so. The painting Vidalia was making of Yellowtail posing in cloth in Onion Gang is now completed and hung up in their living room.
That's amazing. I didn't notice that, but that's incredible.
It's great.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, and at the party, Buck Dewey is wearing a Guitar Dad shirt, as seen made in the episode Shirt Club. In addition, during the song potluck, Buck is shown to have continued his guitar lessons with Greg in Shirt Club and is now playing the guitar.
Oh, that's cool. I hadn't put that together, but that's a nice continuity nod.
It really is. Stephen reminds Lars that he's been in his body before, obviously referencing the events of the new Lars. Nadia's joined us. Say hello, Nadia.
Hey.
Hello.
That's Nadia, everyone.
Yeah.
Nadia, welcome to Stephen University. We're nearly finished. We're just... Well, we give out wrong opinions. Nadia often listens to it and disagrees with us.
I didn't realise Nadia listened to it.
No, I said the other week that she
Because you're too wrong.
she doesn't anymore. She gave up. She got like 30 episodes in, 40 episodes in.
It's not bad. It's more than she's listened to than any other podcast we've done.
Right, it's more than she listens to me in life. I get this glazed over look where I'm just like, she's gone. She's
had it.
She's imagining a more handsome and cleverer boyfriend.
Aren't we all?
I mean, obviously.
Yeah.
I'd replace Nadia with a handsomer and cleverer boyfriend in a minute. She's gone. She's gone. She's
not even listening to this.
The door. No, she's not interested enough to even engage in this conversation about her. Stephen remembers, blah, blah, blah. We've done that one. Oh, the two shady figures who appear at the end of Dugout reappear at the end of this episode. When Stephen is talking to Mr. Smiley...
It's not fucking trivia. That's just the episode.
Yeah, it's just noticing things. It's possible... it's possible to see Zoltron behind Mr. Smiley, meaning he's either fixed the original or he's replaced it, I guess, because it was broken, right?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
And Stephen played him for a bit. So I guess they've either fixed it or replaced it, which I guess makes sense, because in the game Save the Light, the Zoltron machine is back in place, and I think that's
cool.
after this. So there you go, that's all the triv.
Cool.
We've done everything. Go on.
Can I, non-Steven Universe related, can I recommend a YouTube clip that I've been meaning to do on a podcast since it happened, and I think this podcast is the most beneficial one to do it on.
It's not the Hoovian Chaser again, is it?
No. So you're going to think this is a joke. You may have seen it and not realised the power in it, but I watched this happen live, and one of my favourite TV moments of the year. And then
so excited.
After it happened, something happened with the YouTube, which I'll explain. So there's this thing called the Eurovision Song Contest.
Oh, yes.
Right.
I'm aware of the Eurovision.
Yeah. So for listeners that aren't, countries in Europe enter...
Such a stupid idea.
They
it's great, but it's the dumb... who?
They each have a song. It's like Europe's Got Talent. They each have a song.
They're all bad at singing.
And
the performances are always super fucking weird.
The songs are always really weird.
Yeah.
Well, just in case
Nadia's
just clarify. Just clarify.
She's coming. See what I mean? See what I mean about Nadia thinking we have wrong opinions?
Yeah,
she's coming to correct us on Eurovision.
I'm just explaining for those that don't.
We're covering our bases, Nadia.
So
she just went and walked
lots
out
of the lots of the winners and lots of the performances are weird. They're always very colourful. They're varying
One year
degrees
there
of
was an
quality.
act where the staging was just two people in hamster wheels.
Yeah, this year's winner is crazy. Have you seen this year's winner?
I have no interest in Eurovision.
Oh mate.
I know you love it. It's quite a tradition in Chris's house for him.
Yeah,
and his
so my
to watch
family,
it.
we get together every year, extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins, and just one aunt and uncle and two sets of cousins. But anyway, we watch Eurovision.
I think it's nice you guys have that though.
I think it's partly more about that. I think it's become more about that than the act of doing it. But for those that don't know, this year's entry, Suri, our British entry, got stage invaded. So someone ran. Did you not know this?
I didn't know.
Someone ran on. And they protest what they referred to as the Nazis of the UK media, something like that, and demanding freedom or something like that. They got cut off, right?
Right.
So
is that the place for that?
Oh mate, it was crazy.
So
it
they were
was
protesting
absolutely
Nazis.
crazy. They were they were protesting the UK media and referring to them as Nazis.
Weird. Right. Okay.
So yeah, it's very
That's
weird.
not the place.
But
So
someone
out of place.
from Suri's point of view, she's on stage performing. This guy rushes on, backpack in tow, and then snatches the mic off her. Now, obviously, like the whole backpack thing is, people cite that as that must have been really scary for her because backpacks have been used in the past for bombs or whatever.
Oh, sure. I didn't even think of that.
So she, he snatches the mic off of her. She doesn't know what's happening in that moment, and it cuts away to the crowd, and then you briefly cut back to her, and she looks pissed. And you hear so Graham Norton does the voiceover in the UK, and Graham Norton says, "Well, I don't. You're not watching anything, are you?"
No.
Okay, cool.
I'm just listening.
We're going to watch the clip after this. You and me.
Private time.
Yeah.
Should I cue it up?
No, don't cue it up yet. Partly because I got to explain that. So.
Okay.
So Graham Norton's voiceover comes on. And he says, "I don't know what's going to happen now." It was crazy. And then she gets another mic, and this poor woman has to then continue her song
while they tackle the guy off the stage.
No, so the guy is gone, but she's got to continue the performance, and she comes back with such fucking fire. Honestly, it's one of my favorite.
Wow.
She comes back, and the lyrics of the song are very much like, "Hey brother, hey sister, don't give in." And she comes back, and it is such an impassioned. Oh no, we came third from bottom. People were like, maybe England are going to get some points because we deserve it because of how amazingly she did. She must have potentially been so scared, and the power and passion she puts in that performance,
right.
I just love. And I probably wouldn't be bringing it up if it weren't for the fact that the official Eurovision YouTube channel has listed as, in the tag, it says UK entry finals, it's all the videos from the final, and they've put the video from the semi-final. They do in the description say that, but obviously Eurovision themselves, the official YouTube channel, is pretending that didn't fucking happen and going, if you want to see the performance, see the semi-final one where that didn't happen, where our security potentially, someone managed to get past our security and get on the stage. Now, the BBC... YouTube channel has it up, so I think it's something like Suri continues singing after attempted stage invader. So you got to find that version,
right.
But just the passion this woman puts in, I think it's such a powerful moment where the way she continues that song, and I think it's just really cool and good on her. And it happened, and I've since gone back and watched the clip a few times. Jess will come in and be like, "Are you watching the Eurovision performance as well?" And I'm like, "Yeah, hey brother." I'm singing along, I'm loving it, and I nearly nominated it for best scene at the Statics, and I was like, no one that listens to Nothing But Static will care, but there's a possibility that someone listening to Stephen University might go, "I'll check out that clip." So I thought I'd talk about it now.
Awesome. Well, there you go. So that I have nothing to add to that because you've literally said it all. So I'm gonna let that speak for itself rather than actually responding and trying to come up with some sort of opinion on it. It sounds scary. I'm glad the BBC put up the clip.
Yeah, I'm glad, and that really
yeah.
pissed me off. The fact that Eurovision tried to pretend that didn't happen. I'm glad that the actual clip and the actual full performance exists because she was offered the chance to do it again.
Yeah.
And she turned it down and said, "No, I did everything I needed to the first time."
Awesome.
So she could have played again and didn't.
So with that said, I'm going to say that's everything for this week. I've been Dan Doolan.
I've been Chris Billingham.
And we'll see you next time on Chris Reviews Random YouTube Videos. That's not what it's called, is it?
No, I'm pretty sure I'd be surprised if that's what the episode was called.
You know what, though? It's just occurred to me that do I know off the top of my head what the next episode is called?
I don't know. Not in your head. That was a good gag as well. When he's like, I know you, Lars. I've been in your head.
Well, I've been in your body.
Yeah, that was it.
Which is the creepier end of that same thing. I'm going to have to quickly double check what the episode's called, Chris. That's bad, isn't it? I should know. I think it's Are You My Dad? Because the episode after it's called I Am My Mom, I think. Yeah, Are You My Dad? So there's 2 episodes left of The Bomb. How are we feeling about The Bomb? Before I cut it off, actually.
Yeah, you know. It's not as good as the last bomb.
Hard to meet that standard.
It's not really a bomb yet.
To the last 2.
You know, yeah. It's been so littered, these sort of people, that if it's got a really good payoff, then I think a lot of the bomb, yeah.
There you go. Cool. So that's everything for this week. I've been Dan Doolan.
I've been Chris Billingham.
And we'll speak to you next time as we discuss Are You My Dad?